Hello, true believers, and welcome to another edition of BK's Bullets. This is the weekly WandaVision recap. I am not Brent Casina. My name is Jim Afanis, and I am rising to the call of YouTube today to talk about WandaVision this week for you guys because Brent is on vacation, believe it or not. Now, he may have abandoned you, but I surely have not. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into all things WandaVision. All right, before we get into today's review, there are two things I need you to do. Number one, subscribe to Brent's channel. Number two, be wary. You are entering spoiler territory, okay? So let's talk about episode 8. This was the episode we all needed. This was the episode we've all been waiting for a very, very, very long time. Finally getting some answers in what the heck has been going on. And the way episode 7 leaves off, it is implied that Agatha is the one running the show, that she is somehow manipulating poor innocent Wanda, running, behind the scenes, and we find out not true. And that was such a great twist because everybody had thought leading into it, oh, clearly Wanda, the innocent damsel in distress, poor Wanda being manipulated, pulled against her will. All our Marvel heroes must be clad in gold. They can do no wrong. They will never be wrong. They reject that with this show. Wanda is the one who did all of this. Now, whether or not she was obviously, in distress and upset and crying and emotionally just wrecked, understood, she is the one who is she's the reason behind all this, which is great for Marvel. We finally have a hero that is really screwed up, really bad. I know we've seen it a few other times, particularly with that really dopey Avengers movie where Tony Stark makes the Ultron robot. But this is really on a massive scale of what Wanda has done here. And I think she really bit off more than she can chew. And I love that we're leading into the finale now with so many problems that are finally going to be resolved. Now, what this episode does is really smart, is it takes Agatha with Wanda and we revisit key moments in Wanda's history. And let's be honest here. I know Brent has a wealth of comic book knowledge to draw upon. I do not. Many casual Marvel fans do not. So we get bits and pieces of her romance with Vision. We get bits and pieces of her storyline and obviously the death of her brother. But it's not really fleshed out very well. And it's not really until recently that Marvel's like, hey, we kind of need to retcon her story a little bit, or at least inject some details into it, because the reality is she doesn't really have a lot to go on. And I am so glad they put this episode out, and they did it in such a clever way of Agatha taking Wanda through key moments of her life. We got to see Wanda as a child and her family being destroyed, her hometown blowing up, her parents dying. We got to see Wanda's interaction with the Infinity Stone, which gives her the powers that she has. We got to see her budding romance and friendship with Vision and the loss that caused. And then we got to see her grieving over Vision's death by her visiting the sword base and seeing Vision's body flayed out. And her realizing that Vision was not there anymore. And this all culminates to her leading to the infamous house that we have seen for every episode in the fictional town, which isn't so fictional when she drives in. And we see her driving into town. We see all the people that she's been interacting with in all these episodes, the neighbors, the friends, the bosses, the managers that she's driving through, just normal people minding their business. She pulls up to a house. She pulls out this letter, and it's a letter from Vision with a deed to a home that they have bought. And it says something like, I love you, or we'll live here forever, or something like that. And she sees the letter standing inside this abandoned lot. They never built a house. And that's when she snaps. And she screams and explodes, and this giant energy beam comes out, which becomes the Hex. And it is revealed at that exact moment that Wanda is the reason all of this happened. Vision is not real. She did not take his body and reanimate it. So that scene a couple episodes ago where Vision's clawing through and like falling apart, it's not that the real Vision's falling apart. It's that the simulation of Vision leaves the simulation and like digitizes out. Her children, not real. Her food, not real. Her house, not real. The people around her, subject to her nonsense, absolutely real. Agatha sees all this. Somehow, and this is the only thing that's not entirely clear to me, Agatha was somehow able to control all this. My best guess, and my wife and I talking about this after the episode, she really did live next door to Wanda, just dumb luck. And just as the simulation occurred, because she has magic, she was able to kind of like be in the simulation, but it's still Wanda's simulation, very, very much so. Agatha is just kind of seemingly wrong place, wrong time. It's kind of the way I took it. We do get a snippet of Agatha as well. We see her back in the Salem witch trials, and we see her basically murking her coven and gaining all this power. She seems to be immortal. She's at least 300 years old, hasn't aged a day. She's alive and well. So you're getting a little bit of magic on magic fighting, which was interesting. We're taking the non-superhero route, but that's okay. But Agatha really poking Wanda to, one, understand how this came to be, and two, really seeming to want to replicate that for her own reasons. Don't know those reasons. Maybe we never will. But clearly, like, how are you doing this and why? And explain and get it out of me. So, really just driving these questions into Wanda by forcing her to go through these traumatic moments in her life. The episode ends with Wanda having a showdown with Agatha. Agatha holding Wanda's fictional children at hostage and basically admitting, like, hey, look, none of this is real and you know it. And now Wanda finally coming to terms and understanding that everything she's done, all the real pain starting to pour in. And that's where it ends. We do get a cool little post-credit scene. The post-credit scene is of the real Vision, who has been reassembled right outside the walls of the forward operating base of the Sword base, and somehow using Wanda's energy to pipe into him, and he comes back to life. You mean Wanda? You mean Vision doesn't die? Get out of here. Vision's never gonna die. He's a robot. They'll always find a way to bring Vision back. But exciting to see Vision is now alive. What is he going to do? Is he going to go in the simulation and talk to Wanda? We don't know. Obviously, we got one more episode left. So all in all, it was very, very good. It answered a lot of questions. I think a major plus for this episode, the special effects were through the roof. Some of the best special effects I still remain to see on TV. The way they manipulated and changed, the way they walked through doors and suddenly they were in these other universes, the way they had all their magic, the way they floated, all incredibly believable. Major plus for that. Major plus for them actually explaining the story, finally. It took us a long time to get here, and I think a lot of us kind of assumed that Wanda was behind all this to begin with. They throw you a little bit of a swerve in there in episode 7, and then they immediately, of course, correct on episode 8. So it's nice to see, they finally own the story. There's no more ambiguity into what is happening in the story or why it's happening in the story. And then lastly, and I think most importantly, this episode was incredibly dark. I don't mean dark as in like hard to see. I mean dark as in it was full of tragedy and sorrow, and very, very different look for this show, considering everything's been bright and chirpy and I Love Lucy and laugh tracks and everybody having fun. The walls really came down on this episode, and we really got to see the true anguish and agony that poor Wanda has been going through. And it was a lot to take in. I suspect a lot of people may not like this episode for that reason. They may say, geez, it was a little too dark for me. It was a little too much to take in. But I think this was important to frame why this is happening and to explain Wanda's backstory a little bit more. They probably, in hindsight, could have drip-fed this over previous episodes. Maybe she has small flashbacks of some trauma, and then it jumps back to present day. But no, Marvel decided to throw it all in on episode 8, and that is maybe a potential pacing issue. I will be doing an entire review of this entire series at the end of it. I have a lot to say on the subject, but I've been letting Brent, obviously it's his channel, he could do whatever the hell he wants. I've been letting Brent take the reins on the weekly stuff, except for today when he called on his boy Jim E to rise up and give the thoughts to keep the series alive. We have not missed an episode in 8 weeks on the Wanda recap of the day. And by golly, we're not going to do it today. So those are my thoughts on WandaVision episode 8. I think it was great. I am really, really excited to see how this ends. We're going to have a major showdown with Vision, Agatha, and Wanda that's going to finally resolve this issue. The simulation is over. The fantasy is over. We are back 100% in the present day, ready to resolve this issue, and I cannot be more excited. I want to hear from you guys. Leave some comments below. Let me know your thoughts on episode 8. Was it too dark for you? Did it answer the right questions? Is there still some ambiguity that I overlooked? Sound off below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys in the funny pages.